forever. Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg famously said, all of us are textualists now, because, and the reason he was so great is he moved not just the conservatives on the court, but actually the liberals on the court towards a textualist method of construing and interpreting the Constitution, which grounds the justices in what the original meaning and principle in the Constitution embodies, and take that principle and apply it to the case in hand, as opposed to making stuff up out of bold cloth, out of thin air, which the court had been used to doing. And so to me, that's why he's such a great justice, because he actually had an impact across all spectrums of liberal to conservative justices, and made us all textualists now.
I believe he
Right,
taught
so
Ruth
for
Bader
those that don't
Ginsburg
know,
how to shoot.
This is
He
the
did. He
South
took her,
Carolina
they hunted
Constitutional
together
Carry
on a
Hunt
regular
that's going in
basis.
The government right now.
So
I didn't get it
in
the beginning of it because
in the
I've been
Heller
out busy
decision,
picking up a
the Heller
Turkish
decision,
mouse or
several
something, so
things it established.
I got
it was,
that.
It was
I
the
can't show that
first
to you right now because
Second
I'm
Amendment
streaming
case
also
really
YouTube.
in decades.
Apparently, I've got my YouTube
And the
streaming
Heller
back
decision
early,
established that,
so
number
still gonna be
one, the
using
Second
Rumble no matter
Amendment
what, so don't
right
worry
was
about
a
that.
personal right.
But
Were you
yeah.
aware? Are you aware that
Check that
many folks who aren't so supportive of
again,
the
I'm going to
right
shut up
to
and just
bear
watch
arms
this. So
argued for years, for decades, including professors.
Yeah.
That the Second Amendment right,
but this
was
is
a
my
right
state, so
that vested
that's why I'm
only
going
with
after it.
militia,
I'm turning it
not
on.
with individuals.
Coop, if you want a link, I can give
You're
you a link.
aware of that?
Yes, I am.
And so he clarified that. It was an 800-page opinion going through the history of
Yeah, I got my
gun
my,
ownership, gun
streaming
rights,
privileges
and
back.
another thing it determined or concluded was that the weapons that it protected were weapons of common usage. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
So you don't have a right to own an A1 Abrams tank or an F-35 fighter.
Whoa! You have
or
that right.
a grenade launcher.
You just can't afford it.
But you do have
it.
a right to possess pistols, shotguns, even AR-15s, because there's 16 million of them in circulation and they're in common usage. So it's a personal right, but going to this amendment, the third thing in Heller, again, this is some left-wing justice. This is the most conservative justice in many generations, maybe forever. The third thing in Heller, did you know, was the Second Amendment right is for law-abiding, responsible citizens. Law-abiding, responsible citizens. So the most conservative justice of our generation in Heller says these folks who've committed these crimes, they're not law-abiding people. Their right doesn't attach. The right is I mean, depending on the crime, it's not a petty crime. But
I know some of these guys can be.
So do you believe, understand
this
that
is what I have to deal with in
background,
South Carolina.
do you see how in background of the Heller decision and Scalia's
these guys.
Masterful opinion that established the Second Amendment rights personal, it's for weapons in common usage, but it's also for law-abiding, responsible people.
We got turtles out there. What's going on?
And then in 2020, did you know in 2022, Justice Thomas, in the Bruen decision, reiterated this law-abiding, responsible people
who we got out there? We got Vanessa Kitty,
and so
we got Ron Wayne.
Would these
we got Ron? Where's it?
These offenders, criminals who have committed these offenses,
Tread is out there.
Would they meet the law-abiding, responsible person test
that
Scalia established, that Thomas, probably yet another great
guys for showing up.
conservative
live
justice,
streaming on Rumble
confirmed just 2 years ago? Would they meet that test?
And I don't know, but I think if we were to adopt the amendment, we're saying they meet that test. We're, as a General Assembly, as the representatives of our friends and neighbors back home, are drawing that line and saying we're okay with this. We're okay with these category of convicted criminals to carry concealed or unconcealed wherever they want to go, except what's strictly prohibited in the statute. So that would be the line we are drawing. Now, whether that line would be subject to challenge, and based on Heller, could someone challenge that, and say this is unreasonable, or it's unconstitutional? I haven't really thought about it. It hadn't crossed my mind, but I don't know that. You never know, and we litigate. It's become kind of the more commonplace steps on controversial issues that this General Assembly has passed, that they end up in court. That's something we're watching happen more and more as the years go by.
But these are convicted criminals that we're talking about, right?
Correct. That's right.
So they certainly aren't law-abiding citizens, right?
They're not.
And in Heller, the majority set opinion, authored by Scalia, said the Second Amendment is for law-abiding citizens.
This guy arguing,
not for law-breaking citizens. Thomas, in just a couple of years ago, says the same thing in Bruin. Law-abiding citizens, not for law-breaking citizens. So this is what's the name of this act again? The constitutional carry?
That's correct.
Does that imply that it's conforming to the Constitution? It does to me. Does it to you?
That's a great question, Senator. I said, these bumper sticker names that these bills get.
Well, this is not complying with the Constitution and the way that's the most conservative justice in multiple generations, the two most conservative justices in multiple generations.
You're not complying to the Constitution either. You're not upholding the Constitution. I don't see it. So why the fuck are you complaining about it?
And so I don't even know why we call it constitutional carry when you're putting things like this to let criminals have guns.
It doesn't let criminals have guns.
I know you're
letting criminals have guns.
I'm against the amendment. I'm on your side, but I think it's important to understand that
you're not on his side.
We
if you're
need
voting
to
against
be cognizant of what the court has determined, what the constitutional jurisprudence in this area of law is, and it clearly is. The Second Amendment is for responsible. In my mind, that's the concealed weapons permit training. Law-abiding. In my mind, you're not a convict. You're not a convicted criminal. People. And if we adopt this, we are really adopting something that is not consistent with the Constitution as construed by Antonin Scalia and Justice Thomas.
Someone needs
in
to
majority opinions on the court.
Thank you for your questions.
Senator from Collins, and what purpose do you rise?
The senator would yield.
I'll yield.
Yield for questions?
I will.
Questions. Senator yields for questions.
Senator, some of the senator from Charleston's questions brought to mind several issues. And if you would follow with me, and I think he makes some valid points. Did you know I agree with most of some of the question and his reasoning, except for that Antonin Scalia was one of the best jurists on the Supreme Court, especially after that hunt with Bush's father and the vote the next week to disavow Al Gore's presidency. But that's just me personally. Did you know I felt like that?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you knew that. That took him down a couple of notches in my book, but his reasoning does make sense. As a former solicitor in this state, what do you see in reviewing this bill in its totality without the amendments that it accomplishes for the good of South Carolina, when those that have not even gone out to get a CWP will now be able to grab up a gun and go outside and carry it down the street?
So, and I hope to focus my comments on the amendment, but I understand. I mean, I'm up here. I'm willing to take questions.
I'm taking advantage of the fact that you're a solicitor.
And I understand.
We only have one and a half solicitors.
I'm happy to offer thought on it, but I'll. So I was not in the General Assembly, but I was a criminal prosecutor when the CWP law was proposed back in the 25 years ago, 30 years. It was a long time ago. And I was a young prosecutor, and I remember And Jeff Young he was a classmate of mine who was in the State House, and I think he championed that bill. Became Judge Young, but I believe he championed that bill over in the House. And I remember thinking that was pretty neat because, I was a young lawyer and I had this friend or this classmate who was in the middle of this legislative fight, was kind of following it. But, in talking to law enforcement and really
She's
just the
ignoring
general
the 4473
tone around
background
the
check
office,
that you have to
I can
get.
tell you,
in
oh my
order to
Lord, this is going to be the
buy the
end of the
gun.
world as we know it. There
And
will
if
be
you can
blood
pass it, you
flowing
can
in the
bring it home
streets.
same day.
It is going to be,
She's
it
ignoring
was this sky's falling kind of belief. Okay. I mean, I didn't know any better. I'm just listening to others that are older and, smarter, more experienced than me. And I'm kind of thinking, well, yeah, maybe that's the problem. I wonder if that's going to work out. I mean, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. And I grew up around guns. I'm real comfortable with guns. My father and grandfather trained me, since I was a little bitty guy to be careful in how you do it. So I'm blessed because of that. I'm lucky because of that. So, we take up another gun bill, a few years ago, not this one. We've taken up several along the way. And we had the one about we're going to go into the restaurant. You remember that?
Yes.
You might've been, I'm not sure you were here for that.
I remember the Ashley Hall one. That was the
that
one
was, I think that was Senator Bennett's bill, I believe. But the bill was, you could have CWP if they didn't prohibit you, if they didn't put the sign up on the restaurant, you could go into a restaurant. Because previously you couldn't go into a place that served alcohol.
Right.
And you still couldn't drink and have your gun, but you could at least go in the restaurant. And the argument was, well, you're out in a dark parking lot, maybe unfamiliar part of town. This is kind of we really need to have the protection. And the argument was, oh my gosh, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. There's going to be blood in the streets. They're going to be shooting everybody in the restaurants.
And they're doing that right now.
Didn't happen. Okay, didn't happen.
Yeah, but as it relates to where we're going.
I'll finish my answer, and then I'll be happy to answer another question. So, we've gone to open carry, and I started out, I don't really like this. I'm not so sure about this. I think you're going to have these yahoos walking up and down the boulevard in Myrtle Beach, scaring the mamas and the little kiddies to death. And it's not good for tourism and not good for my area. And I kind of was in that frame of mind. And so we passed it, and there was going to be blood in the streets, and it was going to be horrible. And there's going to be all these shootings, and it didn't happen. So, and the states that I've reached a point now that
because law-abiding citizens don't do that.
I don't see I think this
we're not
fear
criminals that the Democrats
that is always ginned up in this debate just isn't the facts don't back it up. So I've changed my position. I've come to believe that this is just not the big problem, that it's not going to be a big solution, and it's not going to be a big problem. I don't believe it's going to be either way. And I think as I say, I think the best part of the bill is the enhanced penalties. It might actually make our state a little bit safer.
Well, former solicitor and now senator, my question wasn't necessarily to if it's not a problem.
Oh.
My question was, what ills does it
I do not want to trade stats. States.
For South Carolinians when right now you can get a CWP and carry? So what is the urgency of open carry to protect all of South Carolina?
Well,
I'm having a hard time.
I don't know that I'm here, I can give you that. I don't think it's going to have this great effect one way or the other. That's the best I can say. I just don't think it's going to have this as huge an impact. I think is a lot of it's symbolic. It's important to people. There are people that feel very strongly about this. There are people that feel very strongly against it. And I think that's why we're joined in this debate today, is you've just got these two sort of viewpoints, and this is the place to settle.
Solicitor, I was at another event in my district earlier this morning, and as I rode in, I heard a lot of what the senator from Spartanburg said in his questions
All
and
right,
answers.
more South Carolinians.
And explaining
Woo.
this bill. I had a couple of follow-ups, and I came and I looked at this bill, and he kept talking about the constitutional carry. Do you know how this bill changes the bumper sticker meaning of permitless carry? How are the two different? Or are they the same and we just put another tag on it?
I don't know that I think you could call it permitless carry, and it would be an accurate way to characterize it.
Okay.
But it's just, I think either label could work.
And Senator,
Gabriel.
one of the biggest things I've heard, and I haven't heard of any officer police officer, deputy, SLED officer,
definitely
FBI
need
agent,
a
none of them that
constitutional
I
carry in
come
the
into
state.
contact with that
We need
think
it.
that this is good. One of the things that some of the more higher ups have said is that they're concerned about US versus Ohio, stop and frisk. Do you have any concerns about the implementation of that and the challenges that will come forward under US versus Ohio as it relates to an officer's right or right not to stop and frisk?
I think the next amendment addresses that. That's what I'm attempting to do, and I feel comfortable. I mean, it's as best I could do. I feel as comfortable as I can that will satisfy those concerns, because it doesn't change federal law. I mean, it doesn't change the case law.
Even then, that
And,
doesn't convince them.
But the
Even
way it
then.
was drafted was a little, I think, kind of
That'll only
maybe just
convince
left
them, the
inartful, maybe just a little
moderates.
bit, and we can fix that.
The
And there's
hardliners will
another
just double
issue that
down.
was brought to my attention by law enforcement. So this bill relates to you being able to, without a CWP and without certain criteria regarding prior crimes, criminal convictions, be able to carry a gun. Say we have the Rice Festival downtown and in Colleton.
Yes, we do.
You can walk down, say, for instance, officers are always paraded, walking through town just to make sure everything goes okay. So, you know this boy, Bubba,
I've
was
concealed
just
carry during the Rice
arrested
Festival and not had any problems. So
earlier in the summer
what's the matter?
for a criminal sexual conduct charge or a drug charge, something serious. But he's been out on bond for 2 years. He hasn't been convicted of anything. And under our Constitution and case,
You're alive.
you remain
And yes,
innocent
yes,
until
it would be
proven
good.
guilty. The officers want to know then, will Bubba be allowed under this bill, because I've read it and I don't see it addressed, will he be allowed to carry a gun at my
It's
Rice
true.
Festival?
Watch your language.
And will the officers be able to
my
stop
job.
him from doing that under this bill?
Well, I'm going to take your hypothetical that this young man has no prior convictions. This is the first offense, correct? So he
Right.
doesn't have any other disqualifying convictions.
He's on bond.
Right, he's just on bond. I don't think there's anything in this bill that a judge, I think, as a condition of bond could
do it.
could order him not to be in possession of any firearms. I think he can.
Yeah.
But is there anything in here to protect those officers?
It's the
You're
gun
in a
on their
small
hip.
town.
Yeah, no, I mean,
They're
no, I
going to
think
harass this
that he
young
would.
man.
To your question, if he can carry lawfully anyway, there's nothing in the bill that would, just being out on bond would not be a finding of guilt, so it wouldn't be disqualifying.
I can tell you that question's been asked of me
Yeah,
by
I believe you.
very conservative Republican law enforcement. And they worry about, this particular one is worried about
No,
his
they haven't.
officers. The next
And
question
I doubt
I
they're
have
conservative.
is, under this bill has the bumper sticker of
For anyone that
constitutional
doesn't know,
carry.
the town of
You and I
Walterboro is
both
the,
know in our profession,
is the
on the
county
United
seat
States versus
for
Carroll,
Colleton
the
County.
container rules regarding guns and searching in containers.
Just FYI.
I don't see if you can openly carry,
Except in
I
South
forgot the
Carolina, you don't have to pay for a
adjective
CWP.
there,
You only have to pay for the.
I don't see the
the course.
consistency. If you can openly carry a gun in a restaurant or down the streets, as long as you don't have a criminal conviction of certain types, why then
Yep,
does
I hear
this
you.
bill require that you close up
Autocorrect
a
is the
gun, that same gun,
vilest
in a
of things.
vehicle? It just doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying? Section, I don't know if I put it in here. The stop and frisk part is section 31,
Later, Ron.
245.
We miss you,
The
buddy.
container part is in here, and it still maintains in there, so it's not consistent for you to be able to openly carry a gun walking down the street, but you can't openly carry a gun in your vehicle.
I think, and
That's what I'm saying.
I
Bubba
haven't
is
spent-
innocent until he's
I didn't
proven
really
guilty,
spend
right?
a lot of time on that
Everyone is.
container section because it didn't seem problematic to me.
She just doesn't
I
like
think
Bubba.
it said you can keep it anywhere in your
She's
car.
racist
No,
against
it
Bubba.
doesn't.
Okay.
Right now,
I thought that was
when you-
changed, but
and we can
Okay.
look over it, and I'll be glad to sit
Sure.
down with you, and maybe you can show me something.
Because
Because
welcome to the
you would
club.
agree
Knights
that
Custom Build.
when you
Yes.
were solicitor, a large part of your
she's gullible.
docket contained
She's she's never
vehicle
ceased being
stops
gullible.
or traffic stops when a person had a gun under the seat or in the back seat, and they got charged.
sure.
And oftentimes, that's sometimes people that were just ignorant
I
of the
don't know.
law,
I'm not paying attention to her.
Yep.
and some people that just forgot that it was there. And they ended up getting those charges, and those charges stick with them ad infinitum unless it gets unless they
I'm
get
doing just fine.
the charges expunged for whatever reason or pardon. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it would stay on their record unless it
Love you
would
too,
qualify
Foos.
for an expungement,
Love
or
you too.
and even if it's a
Hope
yeah,
you're doing
it'd stay
well,
on the
man.
record for sure.
Okay, so
Hope the
don't you
missus is
think
doing
there
well,
needs
too.
to be some consistency regarding this alleged constitutionality of being able to carry your gun where you want?
I wish I knew when
Some
it was going to
inconsistent.
start.
I'm
I didn't
looking
know
at.
when
I think
it
I
was gonna
found the
start.
section
I got
about the
news
motor
after the fact,
vehicle.
but I
Yes.
wanna
And I think you're just
continue the rest of
making the
this.
argument that because you're right. I mean, it says,
Yeah.
I mean, it does leave those
It makes
certain places where it has to be in
In
the car.
other words, your constitutional rights are okay when you're walking down the street at the Rice Festival or the Water Festival
Right.
for you to openly carry a gun. But if you're in your car traveling down the highways and say
I'm
rum
not
gully down,
quite sure
down-
which Bubba. I don't know if it's Billy Bob Bubba or Bubba Bubba or Bubba Bubba Bubba. Don't know.
so if you're traveling down Rum Gully Road or Possum Corner Road or Goose Creek, or anywhere like that, you can't have your gun sitting in your lap and you can't have your gun under the seat.
No, this is the
This
standard
bill
Charleston
makes
Democrat.
no sense. It's
that
inconsistent.
moved out
Don't
to
you
Collington
agree?
County.
Well, I
So
understand
she
your
could get
argument
elected.
about.
Either you agree or don't agree. I'm okay with you not agreeing.
I mean,
'Cause
it
I-
seems curious. I don't know.
I
But-
rely upon your experience being a solicitor and understanding, because y'all oftentimes are the ones that have to explain things to to officers out there on the streets that are on the beat.
for sure.
And so your opinion as a solicitor is one of the most important
Lady,
opinions as it
shut
relates
up
to how
and
you
let someone else
interpret a
have a turn.
bill. These
Well,
laws that we pass.
Sit
Well,
down.
I mean, I see the,
Shut up.
I understand your argument
I
about
just-
you still have to keep it in your glove box or in the trunk, or if it's in your vehicle, it has to be stored in these places that are designated by the previous. That's existing law.
Don't
That's
you
been the
see a
existing law.
situation,
Wh- wh-
those,
What's that nice? What about
don't you
shampoo?
see a situation where someone's walking down the street with their gun and you were in your car, you just pulled up to a park and you can't get to your gun and they got theirs and pointed at you? Doesn't seem right, does it?
Well, that might be an amendment you'd wish to offer. I don't know.
Next question I have is, I went through the bond. This,
Well, and I would caution you, we have an amendment number 2, so
I-
if we could keep it focused on the amendment that's before us.
I'm going to make this quick. Did you know
No, you're not.
that in the state of South Carolina, as of last year, if anybody in the state wants a concealed weapon permit, there's no cost to get one, but there's a cost to get a fishing permit?
I was aware of that.
And so people who really want to own a gun constitutionally or unconstitutionally, all they got to do is go get a CWP and there's no cost to them.
That's right.
Well, the course costs money, but the permit application does not.
Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, what purpose do you rise?
To make a unanimous consent request,
State your request.
with the senator from Ori holding the floor, I would like to rework my amendment, so I would ask to withdraw my amendment so I could rework it. He wouldn't have the floor after
I don't need
that.
to hold the floor.
With you making the unanimous consent with him holding the floor.
Yeah, I
With
just
you
don't want to
holding
take the
floor.
podium away from him, but I would
Okay.
like to withdraw my amendment so I can rework it.
Unanimous consent is to withdraw your amendment.
Yes, sir.
Is there objection to the senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, withdrawing his amendment? Hearing no objection, it's so ordered. we have another amendment on the desk. I would ask the reading clerk to publish the next amendment.
Next amendment is number 3 by Senator Henry, amends the bill in
That will
section
require you to be
19.
in South
Strike
Carolina.
section
where it's on, but
2331
yes.
245.
Senator from Ori, Senator Henry is recognized on his amendment.
Oh. I've already discussed this with you. This is the amendment I talked about. This talks about the stop and questioning of someone that is in possession of a gun. There's language in section, this is section 19 of the bill, I believe. Yes. 2331 245 refers to the code section. And this amendment only adds the words absent other articulable circumstances. So it would restore that ability for an officer to stop someone if there are circumstances that justify such a stop, separate and apart, in addition to possession of a gun. That possession of a gun alone would continue to not trigger that sort of scrutiny. You happy to answer any questions.
Senator from Richland, Senator Harpoon, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Would the senator yield to a question?
I'll
Senator
yield.
Yield. Senator Yield.
So you and I have dealt with this warrantless search stuff for most of our careers. And you use the term articulable circumstances.
I did.
I just sent you a case.
This guy
most
didn't
recent
want
case
open
of our
carry with
Supreme Court
permit.
about the
He didn't like-
warrantless stop and search.
He
of
said there was going to
somebody, and they
be
use
blood
the
in the
term
streets.
reasonable, articulable circumstances. Reasonable, articulable circumstances.
I could go for one of those free
That's the
speech
legal
permits, then they
standard.
couldn't,
Would
hinder my
you
speech,
agree to
right?
amend yours?
I would. I mean, I think
No,
that further
they
clarification, of including reasonable, I think is the law anyway. We just will get it right. And that's inartful
I
drafting
mean,
on my part.
they actually say reasonable, articulable suspicion. Okay? I mean, and I just sent you the case. So whatever that standard is, would you agree to a friendly amendment to do that? I don't know the process to do that. And that would allow police officers, I'll give you an example. And I think Representative Rutherford introduced this over in the House. You're as it reads right now, in a high drug area, you strap on a gun, and under your shirt you have 3 kilos of cocaine. Police can't stop you. Because this is a shield. The bill is written now would prevent them. You having that gun makes you almost immune to being stopped.
Well, that's
He's
the
putting me to sleep.
entire purpose of my amendment is to try to address that, because I don't believe that's the intention of the drafter, of the
So
author
sure,
of the
but-
bill. I think that was something that just got slipped. It's one of those little things we caught.
It doesn't make any sense.
That makes
I mean, any of us and the lawyers, defense lawyers or prosecutors, as written in the House bill, it doesn't make any sense because it ties the hands of police officers. Should somebody that's got a gun visible be able to be stopped if there's a reasonable, articulable suspicion? They can do that for anything except, as this bill's written, somebody having a gun strapped on them.
I think that where historically, okay, or that if somebody's walking around with a gun, that might create the reasonable, articulable suspicion.
Well, it depends where they are.
It might be. If it's not, whether it is or did not, that's a judgment call, as you know, Fourth Amendment stuff. But I think the author wants to say, well, no, you can't just be stopping people just because they happen to have a firearm.
Yeah, but you and I both seen cases where police officers are surveilling people selling drugs, and they see somebody taking money, handing
Hand-to-hand transaction,
transaction.
open air drug
There's
market.
a way to interpret this which would prohibit the police from going and doing what they do right now.
That's the purpose of my amendment, is to try to address that
I
very
wholeheartedly
concern.
support your amendment, and if you'll just make that
I'll
and conform it to the
I just need
the
to-
latest, the 2021 case I just sent you. I texted it to you.
Senator from Darlington was up first.
That's true.
Senator from
They do.
Lexington, Senator Setzler.
Senator from Ori,
What purpose do you rise, sir?
would you yield for a question?
Yes.
Senator yields for question.
Senator, do you know if we're going to do this, you're going to have to get the language instead of it being back and forth and it's going to comply with this court case? let's get the exact language
my
that you're talking about
intention.
before you sit down and,
My intention is to withdraw the amendment and submit a replacement amendment and as soon as I can get it drafted.
Is that your motion,
I have
Senator?
a unanimous consent request. Unanimous consent to withdraw amendment number 3.
Is there objection to the senator from Oree withdrawing amendment number 3? Hearing no objection, so ordered.
All right.
Further amendments?
Next amendment is amendment number 4 by Senator Goldfinch. Amends the bill section 10, strike section 2331, 220 subsection A, item 1, and inserts.
Wait. Excuse me. Senator from Georgetown, what purpose do you rise, sir?
There, Mr. President.
All right.
Speak of the amendment.
We're glad to have you back. So, Senator is recognized on his amendment.
I know. Thank you, Mr. President. I am not going to say this is a simple amendment, which is the death knell of simple amendments. Currently, under the bill as proposed, the current list of places for which you cannot carry a firearm are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, go through the list. Somewhere about halfway down that list is where we started about 5 or 6 years ago, as I recall, with the placard bill. Y'all remember that? Where a business could put a placard up and could deny a concealed weapons permit holder the ability to pass by the placard, to go into your place of business, which
Yep.
I was a little conflicted on at the time, quite honestly. There's a balancing of the equities there between the business owner and the guy that wants to defend
Neither am
himself
I.
and his
Neither am
family,
I. I'm not
assuming he's a
jacking
good
off
guy.
either.
But that ultimately passed. Since then, I have completely lost my faith in that system as we've seen more and more shootings from bad guys in places behind placards, movie theaters, for instance. I have also been attempting to think through this scenario, this solution, a solution to a hiccup that I feel on this bill, which is how do we encourage training, incentivize training, but not mandate it? So what this bill does is exactly those two things. It changes the placard law that says the only people that can go behind this placard are people with CWPs. So under the current bill, nobody goes behind the placard. Only open carry, or not open carry people, not concealed weapons permit carry people can go behind the placard. Nobody goes into the business if the placard is placed on your business. With this amendment, it would allow people who want to go get the additional training to be the good guy, to get behind the placard, to defend against the bad guys. It would encourage, incentivize without mandating training, and it would give everybody an opportunity to defend themselves and their families from the bad guys if you're behind the placard.
Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Kimbrell, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Mr. President, see if the senator from Georgetown would yield for a couple of questions.
Senator Yield?
Sure.
Well,
Senator
first of all,
Yield.
Senator, you know we're glad you're back. So I know
Thank you.
that's kind of a question, kind of a statement, but do you know we're glad you're back and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you back. I do have a couple of questions about this, and I understand what you're trying to get at, but I would say, do you not have some concerns that this would essentially create 2 classes of gun ownership? I mean, that's what you're getting at, right? Creating 2 different tiers of gun ownership?
I've seen that NRA talking points on that. They sent them to me about 10 minutes ago too.
Well, I haven't seen the talking points. I'm just asking myself. I mean,
That's the answer is no, because right now under the bill, it creates 2 classes of gun ownership. Right now, we have no ability to defend ourselves as good guys behind the placard. We are subject to the bad guy's discretion behind the placard. Under the bill, we are subject to the bad guy's discretion behind the placard. From your perspective, Senator, I can argue both sides. From your perspective, Senator, and my perspective, I want to give gun advocates, gun rights advocates, gun holders, people that are willing to carry a weapon and go get the training, the ability to defend themselves and their family from the bad guy carrying a gun behind the placard. If that creates 2 separate classes of gun ownership, so be it. Go get your training. Okay. But right now, the current bill doesn't allow you to defend yourself behind the placard.
And I understand that, but don't you feel though that if we do this, you're going to have a lot of folks who are already against the idea of constitutional carry, just popping up these placards to force you to go back to the permit anyways. So essentially you're gutting the whole purpose of constitutional carry act in the first place, right? I mean, does it not
No.
have that same effect? If you're basically creating two tiers, you're gutting the purpose of constitutional carry.
No, not at all. Right now, you cannot carry behind the placard. Right now. Right now, under the bill that we're advancing to try to expand gun rights, you cannot carry behind the placard. All we're doing is expanding gun rights, if you want to look at it from that perspective, so that somebody good can carry behind the placard under the amendment. If that creates two different classes of gun carriers, so be it. But I want a good guy to be able to fight off the bad guy if that happens.
We disrespectfully disagree on this, but I appreciate your answering the questions.
I don't think we do, Senator. I think this is unfortunately something more than that.
Senator from Pickens, what purpose do you ask, sir?
Yield for a question.
Sure.
Senator Yields for question.
The way you've got this written, and I've looked at it briefly, the way you've got it written, that's the only option a business owner would have, right? To have this sign up. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand your
Well,
question,
what I'm
sir.
saying is, and I had a conversation with a member of church that said, if we pass the constitutional carry, what are my options? And he said, what I would like to do at the church is say that if somebody has a concealed weapons permit, allow them to carry in the church, but not, if they don't have one, not carried in the church. In other words, he wanted to create his own two classes there.
Well,
'Cause
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Senator, but my reading of the bill as written would still exclude people from carrying in churches, even if you're open
Well,
carry.
what he's trying to do is set up so that if you have a weapons permit, concealed weapons permit,
Uh-huh.
that
You would,
he's not going to come up with a shopping list of who could and couldn't carry in there.
right.
He's saying anybody that's got a concealed weapons permit is allowed to carry in the church. But if you don't, in other words, this is kind of
Yeah.
a variance of what you're doing here.
So I suspect if you put a placard the way that a bar, a restaurant, a movie theater puts a placard up on the church, I suspect that you may be, again, that would be, to me, that would be tacit approval by the church of anybody that had a CWP would be able to carry in there without having the list of approved people.
I guess what I'm asking is, would you take this amendment that you've got and kind of make it an optional amendment where they could do it either all or part of it?
But it would, under your scenarios, Senator, if they put the placard up, it would work.
But if you put the placard up like it is, it's mandatory. But you could,
To have the CWP.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be mandatory to have the CWP if the placard was up. You could not go beyond the placard without a CWP.
But you're saying you can't put this placard, you can't just put no guns at all in there, you know?
No, well, I mean, under the current bill without the amendment, that's what the placard essentially says, is no guns at all. With the amendment, you allow CWP holders to carry behind the placard. So a church could theoretically put up a placard, which would be tacit approval to CWP holders.
I guess what I'm asking is, could you not let the business owner make that decision and say no guns at all, or put this placard up? In other words, give them an either or option on that, where it's not either all or nothing. That's what I'm asking.
Well, I think that's, I mean, so the question is, make sure I understand your question. The question is, can we allow a business owner to disallow anybody from carrying a firearm?
Yeah, the way it, and I may be wrong, maybe I'm not looking at this amendment correctly, but this is the new placard right here.
Yeah.
You don't have the old placard. So the old placard would be nobody can carry in there.
Right.
This one says that the new placard says if you got a CWP, you can carry, and that the business owner can't stop you from coming in with CWP. Am I wrong about that?
No, that's correct. That is defeating the purpose of the amendment. The purpose of the amendment is to encourage good guys to get behind the placard with guns. That's the whole purpose
I like
of
what
it.
you've got here. I just say that, but if a business owner wants to say no guns whatsoever,
Yeah, I got you.
you don't have that option anymore.
But that option would be the bill. If you want no guns behind the placard at all, then you need to vote for the bill as is and vote my amendment down.
Well, I'm saying give them the option of that.
Yeah, again, I understand the purpose, but I
Either
respectfully,
or.
yeah, I respectfully think that defeats the purpose of the amendment. But I understand the purpose of the question.
Senator from Anderson, what purpose do you rise, sir?
See
Senator
if the senator
Cash.
would yield for a question or two.
Senator, yield for questions.
Sure.
Senator yields.
All right, so just zeroing in on the effect this would have on churches is what is my question, Senator. So I think the way that the law is currently written, if you want to carry in a church, you have to have the approval of the leadership of the church,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So would that still be in effect, even with your amendment, that you would still have to have the approval of the leadership of the church, or is this going to gut that part of the law as well?
The simple answer is if the church puts up a placard, that's the approval. That's the approval, because the placard literally would say under the amendment, only CWP holders beyond this point. Now, if the church chose not to put up a placard, then I'm giving you a legal opinion from the podium here, which is dangerous, but without the placard, the church, I think it would revert back to the church would have to give you, written permission. So a church could have the option, put up a placard. Anybody in the church that has a CWP could carry into the church. Church doesn't have to put up a placard. They can just give out permission slips like they do now.
Well, I would be fine with that if that's the correct interpretation of what this is going to turn out to be, because I'm not an attorney either. And so we're talking about the hypothetical of your amendment and how that's going to affect church.
Yeah,
carry.
all right. So I'll talk through it with you, walk through it with you as best I can, Senator. Haven't had enough caffeine for bar exam questions today, but so the current law, the current bill, let's just start with the bill. Yeah, let's start with the bill, okay? The current bill as written disallows somebody from carrying it in a church without the permission slip, okay? The amendment as written says if you have a CWP placard, the placard shall say, no guns beyond this point, except CWP holders. Ergo, if the church puts a placard up, the church is giving tacit approval to CWP holders to carry within the church. Does that follow?
I follow.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was being clear because been a long day already, Senator.
But I think if I understand you correctly, you're saying if the church doesn't put a placard up, then it reverts to the way the law is currently written, which is you have to have the permission of the leadership of the church.
I think that's exactly right, Senator.
Well, I hope you're correct.
Senator from Greenville, Senator Corbin, what purpose do you rise?
Senator, yield for a question.
Sure.
Senator, you've had several conversations. Senator, did you know? You have had several conversations with several other members of the body about the placards. And I'm just having a little confusion here. Currently, you use the illustration of a theater, okay?
Of a what?
Of a movie theater.
Oh, yeah,
I believe
okay.
you used that illustration. Could we use the illustration of a bank? Would that fit your description?
Sure.
Public accommodations business, like a restaurant or a bank or whatever, because, a lot of banks will have the placard up. And trust me, I'm on your side. There's nobody in here. I'm a co-sponsor of Senator Martin's bill. I'm the Second Amendment guru. But I want to make sure I know what you're getting at. So currently, if a bank has a placard up, okay, use another example. Okay, say a restaurant has a placard up. This got the picture of the gun with the circle around it, and they no concealed weapons. Okay, so they've got that up. If you have a CWP, basically what you're saying is, if I understand it correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you can just ignore that and go on in.
Under the amendment.
Under this amendment, you can.
Well, yeah, I mean, correct, but the placards would be new under the new placards would say no guns except CWPs.
Okay, that's where my confusion lies. So lies because I didn't, maybe I
I've had trouble with my computer today, so maybe I'm not getting the whole amendment. So what you're basically doing is adding a new type of placard that
Well,
would be available to businesses that would say or imply no guns allowed unless you have a CWP, which you can then come in.
Right, Senator, on page 2B, the posting by the employer, owner, or person in legal possession of control of a sign stating no concealable weapons allowed unless possessed by a person with a valid CWP. That's what the placard would have to say.
Okay, so I'm just not showing on my computer. So basically, we're coming up with a new placard that's saying, in a nutshell, bad guys, keep your, thank you. Okay. Thank you bad guys, keep your guns out. Good guys with a CWP, you're welcome to come in.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, but it's not infringing upon the private property rights of a business at all.
Well, that's why, I mean, Senator, there's some, and I debated this in my mind too, how we dealt with, balancing the equities of the private business owner and the person who is going in the restaurant with their family or their friends. And the way I came down on this is it couldn't be public and private businesses because, private business could be anything. I mean, even a private club, right? I mean, you can dissuade anything you want. A public accommodations business is a defined term, a legally defined term. Our Supreme Court's talked about it multiple times. It has a little bit of a lesser, let's just, for the simple sake of this debate, a little bit of a lesser right. Okay, the business owners have a little bit of a lesser right because they're inviting anybody in. They can't discriminate, for instance, right? A private club can discriminate. A public accommodations business cannot. So that's why, I didn't want to take it to the extent that a private business would have to allow a CWP, because that seems like we're rebalancing the equities there. A public accommodations business, somebody that invites everybody in that case, I'd like to be able to defend my family and my friends.
I'm with you 100%, Senator. I think it's wise in this day and age to defend yourself and be that with a firearm. It's the most logical way. I have a friend who has a hardware store, and on his door of the hardware store, he has a sticker or a placard very similar to the ones that said, you can't bring your gun in, except his says CWP carriers, welcome here.
Right.
So tell me sort of the difference between this and what he's doing.
That wouldn't change at all, Senator. He keeps his placard because the law would be CWP or open carry, constitutional carry. You can carry either one in there under that.
Because he's doing the same thing, basically.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
Because you and I both know that the criminals, those that are out to do harm to society, are going to ignore all the laws regardless.
That
doesn't matter.
To me, that's the shooting gallery, Senator, is a place where all the bad guys have the guns and the good guys don't. That's the worst place to be.
Right. Senator, one last question. Quite frankly, there's members in our own caucus who may not be so enthusiastic about this piece of legislation. Do you think this, if it passes, would in any way diminish the opportunity for success in any way?
Senator, I think this is an amendment that could bring a few people on board that might not have otherwise been on board, because it also incentivizes some training, right? It encourages people to go out and get training that want to go beyond the placard. And that's something, honestly, that I struggle with. I am, as y'all know, a big 2A supporter. I own my own gun range. I don't know many people that can, and Senator Martin's been there. Senator Spartanburg's been there. I mean, honestly, I own probably more guns than all of y'all combined. Probably shouldn't say that in public.
I doubt that.
I don't know, Senator. I don't know. The senator from Spartanburg shaking his head in agreement with me. But my point is, training is always a good thing. Now, whether or not it's constitutionally mandated, I think that's a real solid debate. And I think we've had a lot of that debate today. But incentivizing training, I don't think anybody can disagree with incentivizing training. And it's a real incentive for people in here that may be on the fence Go get some training and you can go beyond that placard, Senator. That's the whole purpose of the amendment, honestly. Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Senator from Richland, what purpose do you rise? So did you?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator yield for a question?
Senator yields for question.
Senator, what about doctors' offices? What if you are a doctor? What if you are a psychiatrist? And you think it is in the best interest of your office and your staff to keep anyone out with a concealed weapon? Because you do know that everyone who commits a criminal act doesn't wake up that morning as a criminal.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you do know that there's some people, because of the emotions of a moment or the emotions of a situation, would do something criminal and then they become a criminal.
Sure.
They may have been to church that Sunday, Bible study that Wednesday,
Yeah, have a mental break.
or some emotional episode.
Sure.
And so what if you're a doctor's office? What if you are a psychiatrist and you specialize in marital counseling?
Sure.
And you think it is in your best interest to keep anyone out of your office with the weapon? Your amendment would not allow that to happen if you have a concealed weapon permit. So this good person, John Doe, wakes up in the morning, concealed weapon permit with the church Sunday, Bible study on Wednesday, had breakfast with his family on, and he goes to a counselor and he and his wife counsel. She decides after all the counseling, she still wants to divorce him. And he pulls out his concealed weapon and just go ballistic.
Sure.
Your amendment would not prohibit him from bringing that concealed weapon in that office.
Yeah, I would hold
Correct.
your breath too on that one.
That's correct. But I also think my amendment wouldn't stop him from bringing that weapon into the office.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, look, as you know, Senator, we all know
Have a good one.
that there is a large number of people that ignore that placard. There is a large number of people that ignore that placard. And if they're going to commit a heinous act, they're going to commit a heinous act. I would certainly hope that a good guy would be there to help with that situation.
Yeah, Senator, but my concern, and I would agree, listen, if someone has devious intent and they want to bring a weapon, they would do that. But we are talking about the good guy with a concealed weapon that he normally carries with him everywhere. And when he enters that office, he has absolutely no intent of doing anything criminal.
Sure.
No intent of committing any harm to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But because of an emotional situation that does not go his way, he loses it. And his weapon is on him. Can't you give the doctor's office the right to protect themselves and protect their staff? Who do you think this concealed weapon carrier is
Dude,
protecting?
just vote no
by
and
going
shut
into
up,
the doctor's
please.
office with his concealed weapon on that. If the folk in the doctor's office says, we think it's in our best interest that no one enters this building
Yep.
with a weapon, what you're saying is we know better than you, doctor.
No,
Well, what you're telling him is that we know how to keep you safe
no.
better than you know how to keep us safe.
No, I mean, look, I mean, I understand that not everybody's a gun guy, but if I was a psychiatrist dealing with mentally unstable people, I would certainly be carrying a gun. So,
But would you want all of your patients entering with guns?
if they
I
have,
mean, if you're a psychiatrist, you want everyone sitting on your couch with a gun?
no, I don't. But again, I mean, we live with it every single day. There are people walking around us all the time, every day with guns that you don't know anything about. That's either a psychiatrist's office or that's a doctor's office or that's a bank and they walk right past the placards.
Second example.
Yeah.
What if you are a school employee, and the school,
Well, this
you have a
guy's a
metal
dumbass,
detector all the students go through
yeah.
along with staff. And the school's
I would tell him,
policy
stop-
is that
stop
no
trying
one
to-
brings a concealed weapon. What you're
filibuster
saying
this
is
and
that
just
if you
vote no.
are a concealed weapon permit
No,
carrier.
no. Schools are specifically excluded.
So
in the-
schools are exempt from this?
Yeah, I would have to look back at the original bill and the original law, but there's a list of places that
Okay,
are
yeah.
exempted.
Churches are too. I think Senator
Yeah.
from Anderson and I just talked about that, and
Yeah, but
and his
schools are,
church. But
schools,
doctors'
courthouses,
offices are not.
public buildings, schools, courthouse. I don't have the entire
Right,
list
sure.
in front of me, but there's a bit, yeah.
Well, let us stick
Cooper,
with
are
the
you in
first
here now?
example. The doctor's office, the marriage.
Yeah, just got in, man. I'm just getting in the house and just.
They will not be
just making my
exempt from
computer.
that.
Okay.
I don't, again,
Cooper's here with
Senator,
me,
I don't
so.
have the list. I don't think doctor's office is on that list.
See
If
if
somebody
we
wants to
just-
correct me,
Would you be
I'm
comfortable adding?
messing with this. This is
Sorry,
Rumble
Would you
Studio.
be comfortable?
Yeah,
adding?
I was trying to do it
I-
on my
if-
phone.
if
and
you
it
want-
was
if you
making
wanna
me
add it,
do a
that's
bunch
fine
of
with me.
things.
I just think
I
anybody
like it
that
better than
deals with
StreamYard because you don't
emotional
have to pay
people,
for it.
anyone that deals with emotional people may feel like they have to do what is necessary to
Yeah.
protect themselves and their staff.
So,
Sure, if you
hi,
wanna
Coop,
put in
it's
that
been
amendment, I
what,
think that
8
makes sense.
hours? 9 hours?
Senator
I'm like that, yeah.
Dickens there from
We
the senator.
killed the stream at what, 4 something this morning?
What
Yeah.
person?
I
Two
went to
questions.
sleep.
Senator
Woke up
Gill
at
for
about
questions.
9,
Senator
10.
Gill.
Got
If
a
this
message
amendment
from my
passes,
FFL that
Duke
my
Energy, they got
Mauser
a power
came in,
plant on
went
Kill.
down, picked it up.
Can they stop somebody from coming in there with a
Yeah, I
weapon?
got something to eat, got a shower, got about an hour's worth of
And
sleep.
Duke
got out of bed,
Energy
got the
power
fridge ready.
plant stops somebody
It's
from coming
cool,
in
I
with a
work.
weapon
Yeah, in other words, there's no weapons allowed on site. at
Yeah,
Duke
no.
Energy.
because it's a power
You know,
plant.
I work out of
Yeah.
home, so
I
you
mean,
know.
Or because Duke
That's an
Energy
example.
plant.
There's plenty of industry that does that. I'm saying,
But my question is it
All right, let's
because
go through
Duke
some more of
Energy
these,
places
comments.
a placard up, or is it because it's specifically enumerated in statute?
All right,
I
what
don't
I
know
miss,
the
what I
answer to
miss.
that.
I think it's their policy.
Okay, well, if it's a policy, then yeah, I mean,
Stupid analogy.
the amendment's in effect. If it's a policy,
DM
right?
Fox.
If the, if,
So
What if
Duke
they
would
cast
not
the
be able
spell
to
of
stop somebody
protection
with
on the
CWP
placard
from
to
coming
keep
on site?
evildoers out?
now,
It's got a +5
this
defense.
gets into the same
Yes,
question.
but it
as
also has-
the doctor.
it also has a minus-
there were lobbyists
minus
in the lobby in the
5
last
enforcement.
debate that were lobbying for various industries to come about, and
Yeah.
this guy should be included and this guy shouldn't be
Well,
included.
I would encourage you to have an either or
Yeah.
type sticker, like I mentioned.
Trying to get my stuff together because I'm going to start streaming
Clarence,
online here in a little bit
different.
for Miller v. Bonta.
All
Here
right.
for a question, maybe
Sen-
two.
Kent Shark
Senator
says
Yield
the
for
la-
questions.
the
Senator
classic
Yield.
left argument
Thank you.
that everyone is
Senator,
against
I want to
threat.
make sure
so,
that
so
I
is every
heard correctly,
Democrat
or
in
maybe
the
I
government because you
misunderstood,
don't
but
do your job.
when you were entertaining questions from the senator from Greenville, Senator Corbin, if I heard correctly,
Born.
he asked you in reference to this placard that if a business, say, let's say maybe a hotel or whatever, if they had a placard saying no concealed weapons allowed, I think he asked you if somebody had a concealed weapon permit, they could ignore that placard. And I think you told him, yes, they could, but that's not what this amendment says, does it? Or did I misunderstand yours?
Senator,
misunderstand, but
I'm
that's the
sorry,
thing.
I just had a brain fog,
Coop,
epiphany.
this
Thank
is
you
what
very
I have
much,
to deal
Senator.
with in South Carolina.
It's not a
It's
public
worse than what
accommodations
you do.
business, Senator, so it would not.
I've been listening to it all day.
I'm sorry for directing. It has to be a public.
I didn't know it was
accommodations
today.
business
Otherwise,
for
I
this
would have
to
streamed the whole
account
damn
for, so
thing.
that scenario wouldn't. Okay,
And I got my
sorry.
YouTube
So
stuff
what
back
I'm
too,
asking,
so, you know.
I think the senator from Greenville
Hey.
asked you if a business had a placard that said no concealed weapons allowed.
Yeah.
I think he asked you, but if a
Yeah.
person has, no weapons allowed, I'm sorry. But I think he asked you if a person has a concealed weapon permit,
Yeah.
can they ignore that placard? And I think you told him yes, but I don't think that's what the amendment is saying.
No. The placard would not. The new placard on the amendment says no. I'm paraphrasing, but no weapons except CWP.
Mine is quick too because it's fucking.
Okay, so the
So you're not
business.
ignoring. I'm sorry, but you're not ignoring the placard. You're within.
Okay.
You're pursuant to law.
So the placard would say basically no concealed weapons allowed unless you have a CWP.
No. So under this bill, let's just call it constitutional carry. Okay.
Mhm.
No open carry. No open constitutional carry. Only concealed weapons.
Right.
In other words, you got to have training to go beyond the placard.
Right. That's. I think we're saying the same thing. So they could have a placard.
Yeah.
Saying.
Only CWP holders beyond
Right.
this.
Okay.
That
Right.
did I say that better? Only CWP holders beyond this placard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been very patient. Senator from Lexington, Senator Sutcliffe, what purpose do you
We got
have?
some
See if
real,
Senator
real good
will
thinkers
yield.
here in South
Senator Yield for
Carolina. let me tell
questions?
you.
Yes.
Senator Yields for questions.
Senator, we've been talking about a lot of things, churches and movie theaters. But what about the gentleman from Oconee County who spends his life building his office supply business? And he wants to put up a placard.
DM
It's
Fox.
a retail store. Or you
Washington
got
State laughs
somebody
in
in Cherokee
communism at the
County who's
feeble
got a
anti-gun
retail
laws.
milk
Yes,
facility.
I'm
Or
totally,
you got a
I'm totally
lawyer's
getting the
office,
vapors for the Washington
or
gun
you
laws.
got a beauty salon. You're saying if they got a CPW
Right, Coop,
permit,
them Southern
that
vapors.
these businesses
Oh, yeah.
don't have the right, when they put their life and their business and their money into it, to say you can't enter my business
This link for the.
if you're carrying a gun.
It,
Is that what we're saying? in South Carolina?
no, if it's a public accommodations business, that's what the amendment says. But if it's a private business, then
I'm
no.
just glad I found that.
If it's a
I found the
public
link for this
accommodations
so
business
easily,
in your
because
scenario under
So
a
how are you
retail,
going to define
on our
public
state's
accommodation?
website, they've
it's
got it
defined.
listed. It's like,
the
here's what's
Supreme
going
Court's
on
taken it
for
up multiple
today.
times, but
Here's the
basically,
live feed.
those are things like
Yeah, that's how
restaurants
I
and
found it.
things
Like
where
I said, I've been
people
listening
welcome
to
in
it since
to be
like
served.
one.
So
20,
again,
These
those are
retail businesses
As I said,
are
I had to
welcoming
go
the
pick up a
public.
Mauser
yeah,
day.
they
so
are.
you
Those
know.
those would be under your scenario. Those would be public
That's valid.
accommodations businesses.
Yeah.
The center. That's what I was getting at in the beginning of this. There's always a balancing of the equities here. This is what we have to do in this body, and the balancing of
You
the
have to go to the
equities
gun store
are,
when they text
in
you,
this
say, hey, your
case,
stuff's here.
my rights and their rights. My rights as a concealed weapons permit holder that has gone and gotten training. In
Oh, I
this
know.
case, my rights are paramount to the rights of
The guy that's
business
standing at the
that's
at
that's
the microphone,
I mean,
we want
that's
him
down
because
and
he's
dirty
for the bill.
as clean and as
Okay.
honest as I can say.
But the people
in the
standing up
case of a
asking the
private
questions,
business,
they're just
the
trying to
private
filibuster
business
or
owner,
waste time.
his
so there's
rights
no
are
vote.
paramount to the concealed weapons permit holder. At some point in time, we have to draw the line of distinction and say somebody's rights are paramount to the others.
We had to go through
Senator
the
from
same bull
Anderson,
BS
Senator
just to
Cash,
get
what
open carry
purpose do
with
you
permit.
answer?
See if the senator would answer a question.
Sure.
Senator Yield for question. Senator Yields.
Senator, I think you've put forward a very thought-provoking amendment, obviously. And I don't know that I'm ready to vote on it. So I'm just going to ask Senator if you might be amenable to carrying it over.
Sure. How much longer do we need to talk about it?
No, sit down. No, buddy, I can't get you in my lap right now. Come on. Your tablet should be.
Senator, will you hold your motion? We got some more
buddy.
questions.
You got the floor. So,
Well, I do have.
Senator,
Here, do me a favor and plug that in. for me.
Senator Devine, what purpose do you ask?
Would the senator yield for a couple questions?
Senator Yields. Senator Yields, sir. Senator Yields, a question? Sure.
Thank
Senator
you,
Yields.
Senator. I do understand your amendment, and
Oh, good.
and
Not a
I
Democrat.
think I understand. Are you saying the premise behind your amendment is because someone has a CWP, they've gone through the regular requisite checks, and so they should be granted the ability to continue to carry the gun, even if the property owner does not allow that?
No, not necessarily. It's just in the past, there's never been this option. I'm not sure if a property owner would allow it or not. I think that's an assumption that we're making that I'm not sure that we can make. But I mean, me as the property owner, if I'm a property owner of a public accommodations business and my choice is to allow nobody with guns or to allow a well-trained group of people with guns to have guns. I personally choose the well-trained group of people because I know that the bad guys are carrying guns on my premises. That's just me. I know that's not everybody's personal opinion. That's just me. And, the people that disagree with that premise should vote against the amendment. The people that agree with that premise should vote for it.
Senator, did you know that in 2022, SLED revoked
God, shut up, lady.
1,489 CWPs?
I believe it.
And then in 2023, they revoked 1,605 CWPs.
I believe it. People don't
Dude,
pay.
I might not be
people don't
streaming
pay their
marijuana.
remote fees. People let them go all the time.
Okay. If you need to go, just let me
So
know.
if someone has had a CWP and they have the
Right now, I
requisite
can't find the
checks,
damn.
sometimes they get revoked. Do you think those folks, how would the public accommodations owner know whether or not someone
Well,
is,
in that, 'cause right now I can't find
still
it.
has a right to have a CWP?
Yeah, and it's the same
Ted
way
says I
now,
think
Senator.
they're
that
just asking
you wouldn't,
questions to
if
verify
I
that
walk
what
past the placard with
amendment
my
is
concealed
actually
weapon
saying
today,
before they vote.
you wouldn't know it. If I walk past it
Yeah, but
tomorrow
you
after this bill and
asking
this
carry it
amendment
over to
passes,
the
you
net-
wouldn't know it.
for
The only
to another
hope
day
is,
means
I mean,
they
we pass
don't-
laws
they
for the
wanna
good
hold
guys
the
most
vote
of the
till the
time because
next
the bad
day.
guys are going to break
Yeah,
those.
they're just trying to push
The
for
only hope
term.
is that the good
They're
guys
just
can look and say,
right
"Oh,
now
I've got an
asking
open,
all these questions.
I've got an open constitutional
it's
carry
delaying
here.
the
I
vote.
can't walk past
They're
that sign."
trying to delay the vote.
That's our
The
hope.
Democrats are
The
trying
only
to
guys
delay
that
the
will be
vote
able to
so
walk
they don't
past that
have to
sign will
vote.
be the CWP, the guys.
They know good and well none of these
That's the
amendments
hope.
are going to
Bad
pass.
guys are probably
And they
gonna
know
walk
we have
past it
enough
anyway,
Republicans
as we all
to
know.
pass this through the
Yes.
Senate.
Thank you.
So it's just got to go through the House. So we got enough Republicans to
Senator
pass it
from
through the House
Greenville,
over the
Senator
Democrats.
Allen,
So
what
it's
purpose
really,
do you rise?
they're just buying for time at this point.
Sure.
Senator for
That's
questions.
all it
Senator
is.
Yields for
That's
questions.
all it is.
Senator,
They have to waste enough of
one
our
thought
time
passes my mind
before we can get it
regarding
through.
forcing a restaurant or bar to allow those in with weapons. What would that do to the insurance? If you have to have the weapons in or allow the weapons, do you think the insurance industry would require higher premiums and higher liability?
Don't they do that anyways
I
when
don't-
you have to make a
Senator,
claim?
first of all, I'm not sure
The answer is yes, by the
I'm
way.
not sure I'm qualified to opine on insurance rates, but
But just kind of use a little common sense.
well, my common sense is sometimes different than other people's common sense, Senator.
Well,
But
I'm kind of seeing that on this amendment in the sense, you know, thinking about a restaurant that's going to have guns in there.
the restaurant has
and
guns in it now,
alcohol.
Senator. I mean, that's I think
That's
is the
a
premise by
non-issue.
which we can all start
I mean,
and we can all disagree.
I don't think what
The restaurant that you're talking about has guns in it right
At
now.
the same time,
Whether
have
you
I
like
been to
it or
bars
not.
with my
They're
gun?
there.
Yeah,
Sure.
but if you look at
Have I
the
drunk
owner of the
alcohol?
restaurant
No, because
acting
it's against the law.
reasonably,
You see,
then they
the
may
law-abiding
decide
are going to follow
they
the
don't
law,
want it in
and
there.
those that aren't going to
And they
follow
have
law
that
aren't going to
right
follow the law.
currently
But you're still going to
put up a
represent
placard
them in
and not
court
allow
because
it.
that's what
Okay.
But
Democrats
under
do.
your
They represent
amendment,
criminals.
they're doing nothing. They've
100%.
got to accept it. And then they got to make the patrons safe.
They don't have to accept it. It's the law.
That's
If
exactly
you
why
want to
I'm
analyze the risk, I'll go through it
commenting
again
on
with
this.
you.
This is
okay?
what I have to do with my
The
spare
risk,
time-
in
time
my
time.
opinion,
Hey, brother, I heard all of these arguments
having
when
a
they were
group of
trying
trained
to
individuals with guns
stop,
in a restaurant and have
constitutional
no
carry in
good
Alabama.
guys in a restaurant and only bad guys that are
Pretty
carrying
much
guns in a
word
restaurant.
for
The
word.
risk, in my opinion, is lower. Okay, if you want a restaurant full of bad guys and no guns, or full of bad guys and guns that walk right past the placard, that seems like a pretty risky place.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that seems like a risky place to be.
I understand. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, I know we differ. I got it.
Okay, shit, they put it up there finally. God damn it.
There's Coop. But
All right, so I'm just going to be, because it's
No further questions. I'll
the
move to carry on.
there.
Pasadena
Motion
courtroom.
is to carry over the amendment. Those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment is carried over. Senator from York, Senator Clymer.
Yeah.
Stand at ease momentarily.
By the way, I don't vote for Margie Matthews Bright or whatever her name is. I don't vote for
We got
her.
it.
She's supposed to represent my county. I always vote for the Republican candidate because, she's anti-gun.
This should be it. I think I found it. Damn it, I shut my other streams down. I don't have to open everything back up. Douchebags.
See if I can raise the volume on this a little bit.
Let's see.
The Senate comes to order. The reading clerk will publish the next amendment.
The next amendment is Amendment Number 5 by Senator Harpootlian, amends the bill Section 3.
Senator from York, Senator Clymer, what purpose do you rise?
Be heard on the amendment.
Recognize on the amendment.
All right.
I
Senator from
don't have to open
I'm
this
just
up.
joining in and I'm just joining in. It's
Recognize-
likely the Constitution
For
carrying
just a moment.
being passed, judging by today's
me hold-
speaking.
with you holding the floor is
Uh,
objection. As
There were
being
more Republicans are for it than
Senator Dees
Democrats.
momentarily.
The Democrats are
With the
just
senator from York, Senator
wasting
Clymer,
time,
holding the
just
floor. I hear no
waste time.
objections. We'll stand at ease.
It's
they may either vote on it today or they may vote on it tomorrow, depending on how things go, or the next time. I think they're going to a recess now.
yeah, like I said, I've been listening to it all day, and it's hard to do that and drive on the way home.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
it hurts. That dude talking about when someone could have 2 kilos of cocaine under their shirt, and if someone sees a gun, there's nothing they can do about it. Like it's this magic fucking ring. No, if you can prove he's got the dope, then he's carrying the firearm in the commission of a felony, and then he's even more fucked.
Right. And the Democrats don't realize that they don't want to enforce the law. That's the problem.
It kills me, bro. It just it's and I do this to myself constantly, and I share it with you guys like you are now, so everybody else gets to feel the pain.
So they may vote on it today. They may vote on it tomorrow. It's right now.
Senate will come to order.
Okay, now
Senator
they're
from York,
they're
Senator
back.
Clymer
You know.
retains the floor on the amendment.
Hold on.
Senator from Edgefield, what purpose do you rise, sir?
President, I want to see if anybody has any unanimous consent requests or announcements to make. We're getting close to the point that we probably need to take a break before the state of the state. So before I make those
hell, they got
motions,
the
I want to
state of
see
the
if
state
anybody has
tonight,
any
too.
announcements or unanimous
Yeah.
consent requests.
These
State
Democrats-
Senator from Lexington, parliamentary inquiry.
You said the senator from York was
The-
up on the
as I said, they were
amendment. Which
filibustering.
amendment is that? Because
Yep.
the one
That's what all this is.
Senator
It's all
from,
filibustering.
Coast, his amendment was carried over, I understood, from
He
Georgetown.
published the
No,
next
number
amendment.
5, okay.
Amendment number 5 by the
Thank you.
senator from Richland. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Richmond,
We have
north
a
of
unanimous
Richmond.
consent.
All right, I got to get this.
Senator from Lawrence, what purpose do you?
Yes,
You have-
it's
state
a
your
new
request.
rehashing because they threw the last one to a committee.
Senate
Yeah, and
Resolution
remember, it passed the House, so all they got to do is get it past the
Disability Advocacy
The Senate.
in early March.
Is there objection to discharging from the Senate Medical Affairs Committee S985 and placing it on the calendar? Hearing no objection. So ordered. Senator, we'll do it tomorrow. Senator from Greenwood, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Unanimous consent request
State your request.
that the uncontested local third reading bill 972 regarding the election trustees district change in Greenwood be given a third reading.
Is there objection, going to page 3 on the uncontested local third reading bills S972 by the senator from Greenwood? Is
I
there
don't
objection to
know.
going?
Let me check
and
that up
taking
and
that
give you,
up under
give you an
third?
answer in a second.
Yeah, and with the senator from York retaining the floor. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Motion is S972, third reading. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The bill is given a third reading. Thank you, Senator.
I think this is 3594. Yeah, it's passed the House already. Just has to go through the
Senator
Senate for a
from
vote.
Edgefield. What purpose
Mr.
do you ask?
President, first an announcement.
You're recognized for an announcement.
Mr. President, I understand there'll be some members who may want to go over to the South Carolina Bars reception before the State of the State address. I've been asked to let everybody know that you should enter by halls. Can't get into the doors off Gervais Street into the facility.
Be off the Main Street's entrance.
Right.
Senator so informed.
Mr. President, if there are no other announcements or unanimous consent requests, with the senator from York holding the floor on this amendment, I would ask unanimous consent that the Senate recede until 6:40 p.m., then gather to line up for the State of the State address, and at the conclusion of the State of the State address, that the Senate stand adjourned.
Motion is that the Senate would recede until 6:40 for the purposes of lining up for the State of the State, and at the conclusion of the State of the State, the Senate would stand and adjourn for this Wednesday.
They didn't make a vote on it.
Objections, unanimous consent. Any objection? Hearing no objection, so ordered. As we recede, I would like to notify the Senate of the Escort Committee for the State of the State, the Senator from Lexington, Senator Setzler, the Senator from Cherokee, Senator Peeler, the Senator from Beaufort, Senator Davis, the Senator from Greenville, Senator Allen, the Senator from Lexington, Senator Shealy, and the Senator from Florence, Senator Rickenbach, will be the Escort Committee. Again, we meet back at 6:40. The Senate stands in recess together at 6:40.
So that means they aren't going to vote on it today. So recess until 6:40. So we'll start this back up at 6:40 if they actually do come back. All right. So with that, I will see you guys later. That's it for today then. Yeah. It doesn't look like they're going to vote on it today. But it just has to go through the Senate and it's done. So that's why the Democrats are filibustering with all these questions. So they run out of time to make a vote. So it might be tomorrow that they do it. I don't know. It all depends. All right. But with that, we'll see you guys later. Take it easy. Have a good one. And cover your ears. Shut up, infringed!